Girl, let me tell you something. The moment you stop chasing him is the moment you start catching everything God has for you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever held on to something so tight thinking it was your forever, only to realize later it was just a lesson wrapped in pretty lies and temporary comfort? See, we live in a world where we confuse attention with affection, presence with purpose, and consistency with commitment. Just because he's around doesn't mean he's assigned to your life. Not everyone who shows up is sent by God. Some people are distractions, beautiful, charming, good morning text sending distractions that look like blessings but are actually barriers. There's a kind of man who knows just what to say to keep you holding on. He won't claim you, but he won't release you either. He won't love you right, but he'll love you just enough to keep you confused. He'll gaslight you into thinking your standards are too high, your boundaries too firm. He'll say things like you're just being dramatic or you're overthinking. And because you've been hoping for something real, you'll shrink your standards to keep him close, thinking that one day he'll see your worth. But let me tell you something loud and clear. If he can't see your value now, he's not the one God sent to cherish it later. Don't let someone's inconsistency make you question your identity. Don't let his confusion become your captivity. There's a story in so many of us. A story of staying too long, a story of compromising too much, a story of waiting for a text that never came, of dressing up for a date that kept getting canceled, of pouring into someone who couldn't even offer you a sip of reciprocity. And girl, I get it. I've been there, that familiar ache when your phone lights up and it's him, and your heart skips a beat even though your mind is screaming, he's not good for you. It's like you're addicted to hope, but hope in the wrong direction becomes bondage. See, when the enemy knows he can't stop your purpose, he'll try to distract you from it. And what's his favorite method? A man who looks like everything you prayed for but acts like everything you cried over. Because the devil doesn't show up in a red jumpsuit with horns. No, he comes wearing a fitted suit, a charming smile, and just enough spiritual lingo to make you believe it's divine. He'll send someone who flatters your loneliness but fractures your spirit. That ain't God. God's blessings come with peace. They don't make you anxious. They don't have you crying yourself to sleep. They don't have you wondering if you're enough. A true blessing feels like alignment, not confusion. And too often we settle for counterfeits because we're afraid to sit in the silence long enough for the real thing to show up. You keep calling it love, but God's calling it a lesson. You keep calling it chemistry, but heaven's calling it chaos. And you've got to decide, are you going to keep being loyal to what's breaking you, or are you going to be bold enough to walk away? Maybe he's not toxic. Maybe he's just a distraction. Maybe he was never meant to be your man. He was just supposed to be your mirror, revealing the places in you that still need healing. That insecurity, that need to prove your worth loving, that desperation to be chosen. It's not about him. It's about what in you is still bleeding. Let go of the distraction. You know the one who only calls when he's bored, the one who shows up when he needs you, then disappears when you need him, the one who says, I'm not ready, but wants you to act like his wife. That's not a blessing. That's a burden. That's bondage. That's a delay dressed as desire. You want to know what happens when you let go of that distraction? You get clarity, you get power, you get time back, time to invest in your dreams, in your healing, in your wholeness. Because as long as you're busy trying to fix him, you'll never be able to focus on fixing the foundation of you. Some of y'all are praying for elevation while still entertaining what's pulling you down. You're asking God for clarity, but ignoring his red flags. You say you want peace, but you keep running back to what feels familiar instead of what's faithful. Familiarity is not the same as favor. Stop mistaking comfort for calling. Every time you go back, you delay the promise. Every time you respond to that hey stranger text, you reset the clock on your healing. Every time you let someone half love you, you teach yourself that half love is all you deserve. You don't need another excuse from him. You don't need another apology. What you need is to look yourself in the mirror and say, I deserve better. I was created for more, and I refuse to keep renting out space in my life to someone who doesn't even value the home I've built within myself. Stop fighting for his potential when he's showing you his patterns. Stop pouring your oil into broken vessels. You are not the fixer. You are not the rehab center. You are not the one who's supposed to carry his insecurities, his traumas, his confusion, confusion. You've got your own healing to do. And sometimes the biggest act of faith you can make is to walk away from what looks like a blessing but behaves like a curse. You keep waiting for the message. You keep checking your phone like it's going to light up with an apology that'll finally make all the pain make sense. You're out here hoping for that one last conversation, that final sit down where he looks you in the eyes and admits he messed up, where he finally tells you the truth, the real reason he ghosted, the real reason he stopped showing up, the real reason he chose someone else, or nothing at all. But let me hit you with something real. Closure is not a conversation, it's a decision. You don't need someone's permission to heal. You don't need them to say, I'm sorry, in order for you to be free, because sometimes the closure you're begging for will never come from the person who broke you. It comes from you deciding you're not going to let that moment define your worth. Too many of us are sitting in emotional limbo, waiting for someone to explain why they treated us like we didn't matter. And you know what that does? It traps your healing in someone else's hands. It makes your freedom dependent on their awareness, their honesty, their decency. And baby, if they couldn't love you right when they had access to you, what makes you think they're suddenly going to gain wisdom once you walk away? We're out here trying to negotiate peace with people who only know how to create chaos. You're expecting them to give you something they've never given anyone else: accountability. But some people will never own their part because that would mean confronting who they really are, and not everyone is built for that level of self-reflection. And guess what? That's not your responsibility. You've rehearsed the conversation 1,000 times in your head, what you would say, how you'd hold back the tears, how you'd stay calm, how you'd finally get your closure. But girl, how many more months are you going to spend replaying the past, waiting for a moment that may never come? He's not thinking about it the way you are. He's moved on, or at least he's pretending to, and you're sitting there stuck, not because you aren't strong, but because you keep tying your closure to his apology. Let me shift your perspective. Closure isn't about what he says, it's about what you decide. You don't need him to validate your pain. You don't need him to admit he lost something special. You already know he did. You already know he fumbled something valuable. What you need is to stop holding your healing hostage to his growth. That's not closure. That's codependency wearing a motivational mask. There's a woman listening to this who thinks she can't move on until she understands why he left, why he changed, why he made promises and broke them like they meant nothing. But let me lovingly say this: sometimes the why will never come. Or worse, when it comes, it won't make anything better. It'll just open wounds you were starting to forget. You want truth? Here it is. Sometimes closure is just knowing that you loved hard, you showed up, and you gave it your best. And sometimes that's all the explanation you'll ever need. Sometimes healing comes when you accept that there's no neat ending, no period, no perfect goodbye, just silence, just space, just you deciding to stand up, shake off the dust, and say, I'm not waiting anymore. And it hurts, Lord, it hurts, because you invested time, you planned a future, you saw a life, and now you have to grieve something that no one else even sees as real. But that grief is valid, that heartbreak is real. Just because it didn't end with closure doesn't mean it wasn't meaningful, but it also doesn't mean it deserves to keep you bound. Every time you scroll back through old messages, every time you check his page, every time you type out a message and delete it, you are trying to dig for closure in a place that's already been burned to ashes. Girl, stop going back to the fire that scorched you. Stop thinking the next text will heal what the last one shattered. Closure is waking up and choosing peace over pieces. It's deciding that your soul matters more than their silence. It's choosing to unfollow not out of bitterness, but out of boundaries. It's deleting the number, not because you hate them, but because you love yourself enough to stop waiting for what may never come. You don't need to hear I was wrong to know that he was. You don't need the full story to write your next chapter. Your healing doesn't begin with his confession. It begins with your commitment to yourself, to your wholeness, to your worth. You're not weak for wanting answers, but you're powerful when you realize you don't need them to move forward. You can bless yourself with peace by choosing to let go of the questions. You can reclaim your power by deciding that this is not the story you're going to keep rereading. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not next week, but one day you'll look back and realize that the closure you you were searching for didn't come in words. It came in the silence. It came in the moment you stopped needing to understand and started choosing to be free. You've been dimming your light so someone else doesn't feel blinded by your brilliance. You've been lowering your standards so he doesn't feel challenged. You've been making yourself small, palatable, easy to digest, all because he couldn't afford to love you the way you deserve. And let me tell you right now, if someone can't meet the value you bring to the table, that is not your cue to discount yourself. That is your cue to pack up your peace, your power, your purpose, and walk out of the room. You are not clearance. You are not 2 for 1. You are not love on a budget. You are a full price, high value, one of a kind woman crafted by God. And the right one, he won't ask you to sell yourself short. He won't negotiate your worth like it's up for debate. The right one will look at everything you are, your strength, your softness, your past, your purpose, and say, that's exactly what I've been praying for. But some of us have been out here trying to make love work with people who can't even afford to love themselves. You keep watering their garden while your soul is running dry. You keep giving the very best of you to someone giving you crumbs and calling it a meal. And why? Because somewhere along the way you convinced yourself that being loved a little is better than not being loved at all. Girl, let me break this lie wide open. Halfway love is not love. It's manipulation. It's convenience. It's someone keeping you close enough to use your presence, but never close enough to honor your heart. You are not his emotional support system. You are not his late night comfort. You are not his when it's convenient partner. You are a woman worth choosing in public and in private. Think about this. Would you walk into a luxury store, pick up a $1,000 bag and expect the cashier to take $5 and say, that's all I have, but I really like the bag? Absolutely not. And yet we do this emotionally. We let people love us with broken change when we require deep investment. We let people pay with effort that costs them nothing while it costs us everything. How many times have you silenced your voice so you don't sound too needy? How many times have you laughed off the disrespect just to keep the peace? How many times have you watched yourself shrink in the name of love? That's not love, baby. That's survival disguised as romance. You're lowering your value because he's not ready. You're lowering your expectations because he's still healing. You're settling for maybe because he said he just needs time. But let's call it like it is. If someone truly values you, they won't risk losing you. They won't keep asking for discounts on a love they know they can't afford. They will rise to meet the level you're at, not drag you down to where they feel comfortable. And sometimes it's not even about what he's doing wrong. It's about what you're not requiring, because deep down, you're scared that if you ask for too much, you'll end up alone. But let me speak this into your spirit. It's better to be alone and aligned with your worth than partnered and constantly questioning it. When you set your value high, it doesn't mean you're asking for perfection. It means you know who you are and you refuse to play small. You refuse to beg for text messages. You refuse to wonder where you stand. You refuse to be someone's almost, someone's sometimes, someone's maybe. Real love doesn't ask you to become less. It doesn't ask you to water yourself down so it goes down easier. It challenges you, yes, but it also cherishes you. It stretches you without breaking you. And it certainly doesn't leave you wondering if you're enough. You want to know what happens when you stop lowering your value? You stop attracting people who can't meet you. And I get it, that can feel lonely at first, but it's the kind of loneliness that leads to transformation, not desperation. It's where you find your voice again. It's where you rediscover your dreams. It's where you rebuild the version of yourself that knows she's worth the wait. You stop crying over text messages that never came. You stop begging for consistency that should have been a baseline. You stop trying to teach someone how to treat you when they should have studied the syllabus of your worth from the start. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about pride. This is about standards. This is about saying, if you want access to my heart, you need to come correct. This is about walking away when you know someone is paying you with convenience, when you were born for covenant. There's a woman somewhere listening to this thinking, but what if no one ever loves me like he did? And to her, I say, you're right, because the love coming next won't feel like survival. It will feel like restoration. You won't have to wonder. You won't have to beg. You won't have to edit yourself. You will be loved in full. Until then, don't you dare lower your price tag. Let them walk. Let them say you're too much. Let them label you as intimidating. That's fine. The ones who can afford the value of your love, won't be scared by your standards, they'll be inspired by them. You keep waiting for him to notice what God already confirmed. You keep waiting for his approval like it's the final stamp on your purpose when heaven already gave you the green light. Sis, let me say it with my whole chest. Your calling doesn't need his compliments to be valid. God didn't place that fire in your belly just to have it smothered by someone's silence. He didn't give you vision, gifts, and grace just to have you question it every time he doesn't clap when you win. There are women out here shrinking themselves not because they aren't powerful, but because the man they love acts like their purpose is a threat instead of a blessing. You start something great, he goes quiet. You step into your confidence, he pulls back. You get the promotion, write the book, launch the brand, and instead of cheering you on, he gives you lukewarm congratulations and a passive nod. And deep down, it makes you question everything. Am I doing too much? Should I slow down? Will he love me more if I play smaller? No, ma'am. That's not love. That's intimidation. That's insecurity trying to attach itself to your destiny. And you were never meant to adjust your crown just so someone else doesn't feel small standing next to you. Your purpose was never built to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You've got oil on your life. You've got something divine dripping from your spirit. And no man, no silence, no lack of applause can take that away from you. Do you think Esther needed applause to walk into that throne room? Do you think Ruth waited for Boaz before she followed purpose? Do you think Deborah waited for permission to lead a nation? No, they moved with God, not with the crowd, and neither should you. He may never say, I'm proud of you. He may never acknowledge the hours you've put in, the battles you fought behind closed doors, the way you keep rising after life knocks you down. But guess what? Your value isn't based on his voice. It's rooted in God's. And he already called you chosen. He already called you set apart. He already called you anointed. And that settles it. Stop waiting for his claps to validate your calling. Some men only know how to support a woman when she's struggling because her rise reminds them of their own stagnation. And that's not your fault. You didn't work this hard, pray this long, cry this much to hide your light just so he doesn't feel insecure standing next to you. If he's threatened by your growth, he was never aligned with your future in the first place. Let me get real. There are women out here with God-sized dreams, settling for relationships that feed their fears instead of their faith. You stay because he's nice. You stay because there are good moments, but deep down you know your soul is suffocating. You don't talk about your goals anymore. You downplay your wins. You delay your next move, all because you're afraid he'll pull away if you go too far. But here's the truth. If your elevation causes separation, then that separation was necessary, because the man assigned to your life will never be offended by your oil. He'll protect it. He'll pray over it. He'll remind you who you are on the days you forget. He'll see your power and still choose to stay, not out of obligation, but because he's not intimidated by a woman walking boldly in her purpose. You are not doing too much. You are not dreaming too big. You are not too ambitious. You are finally stepping into everything God placed inside of you. And it's time you stop second guessing it just because he can't keep up. Think about this. When a light shines in a dark room, it doesn't apologize for the shadows it casts. That's what light does. And you, woman of God, are a walking light. If your presence reveals someone else's insecurities, that's their responsibility to confront, not yours to fix. You don't need him to post you on his story to prove you're valuable. You don't need him to show up at every event to believe in your dream. You don't need his compliments to feel worthy. You need to trust the one who placed the dream inside you in the first place. God saw something in you when no one else did. He whispered ideas into your spirit when nobody else was listening. And you think you need a man to clap before you move? No. You need to move because God already called you. You can still love him. You can still honor the good moments. But never again let his lack of affirmation rob you of your assignment. You don't need him to recognize your purpose in order to walk in it. You just need to stop seeking confirmation in empty places. There is a woman reading this who has been waiting for that one compliment, that one proud look, that one, you're doing amazing. But let me tell you, you're doing amazing already. And the ones who are meant to walk with you in this next season, they'll see it without you having to prove a thing. Keep going, keep building, keep rising. Let your purpose be louder than your doubt and your calling be stronger than your craving for his validation. You're pacing the room, phone in your hand like it's a lifeline, checking the screen every few minutes, watching those little dots appear and disappear like they're playing games with your sanity. 1 hour turns into 4, 4 turns into overnight, and now you're left with nothing but silence and you're overthinking, screaming louder than ever. He saw it, he's just choosing not to answer, and your heart, it's spiraling. But let me speak this truth into your soul. Peace is more important than a text back. You've made anxiety your emotional roommate because you're waiting on a message that may never come. You've let someone's silence have authority over your value, and you call it love, you call it hope, you call it giving him space, but what it really is you abandoning yourself to chase after the bare minimum. It's you trading your peace for a ping, and sis, that ain't it. You were not created to be at the mercy of someone else's inconsistency. You were not built to lose sleep over someone who sleeps just fine knowing they've left you on red. Your heart deserves more than waiting rooms and question marks. You deserve more than mental gymnastics trying to decode what he meant, why he's distant, if he cares, or if you should have said less. Let's call it out. We've all been there, waiting for that one message that we think will make the pain disappear. That one I'm sorry, that one I miss you, that one I messed up. But the real issue isn't the text. It's that you've let someone's digital attention become your emotional currency. You've made your peace negotiable, and that's dangerous. What if I told you that every time you choose yourself over the silence, you're teaching your soul how to breathe again? What if I told you that the closure you're waiting for isn't hiding in his next reply? It's already sitting in your decision to stop chasing what isn't showing up. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't need a sound notification or a lock screen alert. Peace is that quiet confidence when you know, even if he never texts back, I'm still worthy, I'm still enough, I'm still walking forward. Peace doesn't come when they respond. Peace comes when you decide that their silence no longer has power over your spirit. You ever notice how drained you feel after hours of waiting for a response? That ain't love. That's emotional bondage. That's your nervous system being dragged through hell because someone couldn't bother to say 3 words. And let's be honest, sometimes we're not even waiting on a man we love. We're waiting on a man who just made us feel seen for a minute, valued for a moment, wanted for a weekend. We're waiting because we don't want to believe we were disposable, but sis, you are not disposable. You are not a message to be forgotten. You are not an option to be left unread until boredom or guilt kicks in. You are a whole woman, a movement, a divine creation. And you don't need a phone buzz to prove you matter. There are women losing themselves over people who don't even deserve access to their energy. You're putting your joy on hold because someone didn't reply. You're delaying your glow up because someone ghosted. That's not your story, not anymore. The truth is, when you choose peace over the ping, you start healing in ways you didn't know you needed. You stop checking their page. You stop rereading old messages. You stop writing unsent paragraphs at 2 a.m. hoping maybe, just maybe, if you say it differently, he'll respond. Baby, you already said enough. If he wanted to, he would have. If he valued you, you wouldn't be questioning it. Sometimes God allows silence not to punish you, but to protect you. That unanswered message, that might have saved you from another cycle of confusion. That seen but not replied, it might have been divine redirection wrapped in disappointment, because God doesn't play about his daughters. And when you stop idolizing their attention, you start recognizing his protection. You can love someone and still choose peace. You can forgive someone and still block their number. You can care deeply and still walk away when your soul is no longer safe. Choosing peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's you deciding that your emotional stability is more important than someone's temporary attention. You want to know what peace looks like? It's deleting the thread and not looking back. It's waking up without checking your phone first. It's going out, laughing, building, thriving, and never once wondering what he's doing or why he didn't reply. Peace is finally getting your power back from the places you left it. And the next time you find yourself staring at that screen, waiting for a response, ask yourself this: would I rather have a message or would I rather have my mind back? Because the longer you wait, the more you lose parts of yourself. And you, my love, are far too precious to be lost over someone who can't even pick up a phone and type a sentence. It's okay to feel the sting. It's okay to grieve what didn't become. But don't you dare let that silence sit on your throne. Don't you dare let a man's inconsistency define your destiny. Peace over pettiness. Peace over pride. Peace over performance. Peace over a text back. Every single time you've been underestimated, overlooked, doubted, you've sat in rooms where your silence was mistaken for weakness and your kindness was mistaken for naivety. They saw the version of you that was still healing, still figuring it out, still holding on by a thread, and they assumed that's all you were. But what they didn't see is what's being built in the fire. What they didn't hear was the conversations you've been having with God behind closed doors. What they didn't know is that the version of you that's coming after this, oh, she's going to shock the room. Let them talk, let them laugh, let them sleep on you. Because when you rise, when you fully step into the woman you were always meant to be, they won't know what hit them. You won't even have to announce it. Your presence alone will shift atmospheres. Your glow will speak louder than any introduction. You'll walk into places that once made you feel small, and now they'll feel too small to contain your greatness. This version, the one you're evolving into, she doesn't beg, she doesn't chase, she doesn't prove, she just moves. Moves with confidence, moves with clarity, moves with power that cannot be taught. It's cultivated through every tear, every betrayal, every no, every lonely night, every silent prayer when your voice was shaking, but you prayed anyway. They thought breaking you would stop you, but all it did was teach you how to rebuild without them. All it did was show you what you're made of, because let's be real, growth is not cute, it's not Instagrammable, it's ugly crying on the bathroom floor, it's journaling through confusion, it's losing people you thought would be forever. It's grieving the old you while reaching for a future you can barely see. But oh, when it starts to click, when you finally start loving yourself without condition, when you stop accepting half effort, half love, half peace, that's when the room starts shaking. You ever been through so much pain you forgot how strong you were? You ever looked in the mirror and realized, wait, I survived that? That's the version that's coming. The woman who knows what she's worth because she had to fight to remember. The woman who doesn't fold under pressure, she builds under pressure. The woman who's not waiting for applause, she's already clapping for herself. That's the one they're not ready for. She's gonna walk different, talk different, not because she's arrogant, but because she's finally aligned. She's going to make different decisions, not because she's cold, but because she's finally prioritizing her peace. She's going to raise her standards, not to punish others, but to protect the healed parts of herself. Listen, you're not behind, you're not broken, you're in the middle of a transformation that's about to rewrite the entire story. The things you cried over are now the fuel in your fire. The doors that closed are now proof that you were too big for those spaces. The people who walked away, they made room for better. You didn't lose, you learned. And the woman that's emerging from those lessons, she's unstoppable. You're going to shock the room not just with your success, but with your peace, with your stillness, with your joy. People won't understand how you're smiling after everything that tried to break you. They won't understand how you're glowing without revenge. But that's because you're not building to prove a point. You're building to fulfill your purpose. And when purpose takes over, pressure bows down. They'll wonder how you did it, how you kept going when everything said stop. And you'll smile, not because you owe them an explanation, but because you remember every moment you thought it was over and God whispered, not yet. You're not who you used to be. You've outgrown old fears, outloved old versions, outlasted old battles. And now you're walking with the kind of grace that doesn't flinch under fire. You're walking with the kind of wisdom that can't be faked. You're walking with the kind of beauty that radiates from the inside out. They won't be able to define you by your past because your future is screaming too loud. The version of you that's coming, she's not waiting for a seat at the table. She's building her own. She's not asking for permission. She's moving on assignment. She's not scared of failure. She knows it's part of the process. She's not comparing herself. She's She's too focused on becoming. She's soft but unshakable, kind but untouchable, loving but not naive. She's every version of you that cried, healed, rose, and kept rising. She's proof that survival is just the first chapter and thriving is the rest of the story. She's not loud, but she's undeniable. She's not perfect, but she's powerful. She's not looking for validation. She is the validation. You don't have to announce her. You don't have to prepare the world. Just keep doing the work, keep showing up, keep healing, keep rising, because when she steps in, the room won't just notice, the room will never forget. You've been polished on the outside, but breaking on the inside, smiling in public, but screaming in private, showing up for everyone else while silently slipping away from yourself. You've tried to pray the right way, to say the right words, to keep the mask on, even in the presence of God. You've been saying what you think he wants to hear instead of what your soul is really trying to say. But here's the key that unlocks everything. When you get real with God, he gets radical with your transformation. See, God doesn't bless the fake version of you. He doesn't anoint the version you put on for people. He blesses the raw, direct, the real, the one that's been hiding under layers of I'm fine, the one that's been functioning in chaos but calling it strength. That's the one he's after. That's the one he wants to meet in the dirt, not just in the sanctuary. You don't have to clean yourself up to come to him. You come to him and he cleans you. You come with the tears, with the bitterness, with the questions, with the anger, with the heartbreak. You come undone. You come unfiltered. That's where the healing starts, because God won't heal what you keep pretending doesn't hurt. Some of y'all are stuck not because God isn't ready to move, but because you won't get honest. You're still trying to spiritualize your pain. You're still trying to mask your trauma with Bible quotes you don't even believe in that moment. But let me tell you something. God is not intimidated by your honesty. He doesn't need your perfection. He needs your permission. You want real transformation? Start saying things like, God, I'm mad. I'm disappointed. I feel forgotten. I feel abandoned. I don't understand this pain. I'm tired of faking. I'm tired of fighting. I don't even know if I trust you like I used to, but I want to. Help me. Do you realize how powerful that is? That kind of prayer shakes heaven. That kind of prayer opens up the floodgates of healing, because now you're not pretending. Now your position. When the woman with the issue of blood came to Jesus, she didn't come put together. She came desperate. She came unclean by society's standards, but she touched him anyway, because when you're real about your issue, you reach different. And Jesus didn't just heal her body, he restored her identity. That's what God does when you get real. He doesn't just fix the surface, he flips your entire story. Too many of us are living partial lives because we're giving God partial truth. You're asking him to change your situation, but you won't give him access to your heart. You want him to bless the new thing, but you're still hiding the old wound. You want elevation without excavation, but God can't build on a foundation that's full of secrets. Think about it. How long have you been carrying pain that you've never said out loud? How long have you been saying, I'm good, when you're barely getting through the day? God already knows, but he's waiting for you to say it, not for his sake, but for yours, because confession breaks the chains. Truth invites transformation. And when you finally speak it, you give God space to shift it. Let's be real. Transformation isn't always pretty. It's not always immediate. Sometimes it starts with a breakdown, a rock bottom moment, a tear-stained pillow, and a whispered prayer that says, God, I can't do this anymore. That's not weakness, that's surrender. That's where the supernatural begins, because when your strength runs out, his power kicks in. And when God starts moving, baby, it's radical. He won't just fix what you ask. He'll heal things you forgot were broken. He'll take the trauma that shaped you and use it to elevate you. He'll take the betrayal that tried to bury you and turn it into the soil that grows your next season. He'll give you peace in places where pain used to live, joy in the middle of a storm, clarity when all you had was confusion. But that only happens when you get real. This isn't about religion. This isn't about church clothes and proper posture. This is about intimacy, about sitting in your car and crying, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know you're still here. It's about those late night moments where you stop performing and start pouring. That's where he meets you. That's where he rebuilds you. You don't need a crowd. You don't need perfect words. You just need honesty, raw, broken, unfiltered honesty. That's the language heaven responds to. Because God isn't looking for actors, he's looking for surrender. He's not impressed by your image, he's moved by your intimacy. You keep asking for change, but change begins with truth. Not truth about how strong you are, truth about how broken you are. And in that moment, when you drop the act, when you fall on your face, when you whisper the words you swore you'd never say, that's where God says, now I can work. And when he works, it's not small, it's not subtle, it's radical. He shifts everything. He rewires your mind. He heals your heart. He reintroduces you to yourself. People won't recognize you, not because you're pretending, but because God has transformed you from the inside out. That's the kind of change religion can't manufacture. That's the kind of power self-help can't create. That's divine transformation. That's heaven invading your humanity. That's the fire of God consuming what tried to consume you. That's what happens when you stop performing for God and start partnering with him. When you stop trying to impress him and start trusting him. When you stop hiding and finally say, God, here I am, for real this time. You've heard the words, you've felt the fire, and now it's time to walk different. Because this isn't just a speech, this is a wake-up call. A divine reminder that your worth was never tied to who left, who ignored you, who couldn't see your value, or who needed to lose you to realize you mattered. Let them doubt, let them disappear, because God didn't call you to be liked.